Frank McCourt was born on August 19, 1930 in New York City to his Irish immigrant parents. Him and his family moved back to Ireland because his father couldn't find work due to the Great Depression. McCourt's father was an alcoholic and drank any wages he earned. His mother had too many babies in too short of a time. 3 of the 7 children his parents had died from disease caused by malnutrition and the filthy conditions in which they lived. Frank McCourt and his family lived in poverty, but despite that, they were always excited about something. A quote by Frank McCourt is, "Poverty turns everything into jewelry." He says this when he was talking about how precious a loaf of bread can be.
I remember a loaf of bread that was precious because it was so little. My mother would bring home what they called the Vienna loaf. I remember one particular loaf of bread, and we were so hungry I could still taste it. So poverty does make things precious.
Frank McCourt wrote a book called Angela's Ashes. It is about a 10-year-old boy who has typhoid fever and is in a fever hospital. The boy makes a friend named Patricia who is in the hospital with diphtheria. Patricia and the boy are forbidden to talk to each other by the nuns who run the fever hospital. The boy is moved to a different room and Patricia dies from her diphtheria.
Frank McCourt once said, "I had done all kinds of physical work, but I was never so exhausted as I was after a day at McKee High School. I used to go home and throw myself on the floor without the benefit of a pillow and lie there for 2 hours to physically and emotionally recover, and I dreaded going in the next day. But one day a thought came into my head, why don't you decide to be happy? And then school was easy."
After McCourt quit school at age 13, he worked odd jobs and committed petty crimes in order to feed himself. He returned to the United States at age 19 and continued to work odd jobs until he was drafted to the United States Army at the beginning of the Korean War. He was stationed in Germany for the duration of the war. When he came back from the war, he went to college and eventually became a teacher in the New York public school system.
The minute I open my mouth and they'd say, "Oh, you're Irish," suddenly I'm labelled. I wasn't a human being. In Ireland, I was just a low-class type. But here I'm a low-class Irish type, an Irish low-class type. So I didn't know, somehow I had to deal with it. "Oh, you're Irish." And at that time, that was 1949, there was still some kind of a lingering residue of prejudice against the Irish. People used to tell me, older people, that up and down New England and in New York, there would be signs saying no Irish need apply. And even the Irish Americans would listen to me, and they patronized me. I was a bit simple, as if I had just come off a farm. And I knew better than that. I knew I was better than that. The people Irish Americans who were running elevators and working as porters, they were looking down at me. And I knew then that I was, again, at the bottom of the heap.
Mr. McCourt taught a creative writing class for 27 years. In those years, he tried to teach each student about the significance of their lives. McCourt once said that the day he retired from teaching was the most satisfactory day of his life.
Frank McCourt wrote several books in his lifetime. Some of those books were Angela's Ashes, Tis, and Teacher Man. Frank McCourt died in New York City at the age of 78. He died from complications with melanoma, which is a form of cancer.
May God give you for every storm a rainbow, for every tear a smile, for every care a promise, and a blessing in each trial. May the roads rise up to meet you, may the winds be always at your back. May the sun shine down upon your face, the rains fall soft upon your fields. Find until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.